everybody. Hey, I'm Patrice Williams. If I could have your attention, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's after 7, and we want to get you out in a timely manner. Thank you. So, once again, I'm Patrice Williams, the Downtown Development Authority Director, along with the Community Development Manager. We want to thank each of you for coming out tonight. I want to especially thank our steering committee that's been with us since May. We've been at this for about 6 months now. We had our kickoff meeting in May. We had a meeting in June, July, August, and September. And so the balloons...
No, I'm just turning off the music.
Okay. We have those balloons outside. That kind of recognizes that we're at the finish line here. While we do have a draft that will be presented to you, but this is our final meeting regarding the master plan process. And so I have some notes here that I need to look at quickly, but you have a puzzle piece in front of you. So we're asking each of you to write your name on that, and we're going to frame it someday and put it on the wall in some building. But we just want to make sure that we recognize your participation in the process. So if you take that puzzle piece in front of you and write your name on it, we would appreciate it. We do have a number of elected officials with us tonight. I would like to recognize them at this time. If you would stand so I don't miss anyone. And kind of like at the chamber, if you want to say your name and the district you represent.
Mark Adams, City Council, Ward 2, Post 2.
Larry Yockey, Mayor Pro Tem, Ward 1.
Chris Watts, City Council, Ward 4.
Richard Siegel, City Council, Ward 5.
And I get 6.
Ramona Jackson Jones, Douglas County Board of Commission Chairman.
And just to take a step back, I did say earlier that I wanted to thank our steering committee. If you're on the steering committee and you've attended more than 3 meetings, if you don't mind standing, if we can recognize you at this time. Tracy.
How about one?
Well, several others. 1, 2. All right. Thank you all. And these individuals were selected either by staff because they're a downtown business owner or a downtown property owner, or they were also selected by our elected officials representing the different wards within the City of Douglasville. So I'm going to wrap my piece up and go ahead and turn it over to TSW.
Hello and good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We're really excited to unveil the plan to you and to hear your feedback. Again, this has been a 6-month process. We have been working with the City of Douglasville. Tonight's agenda, we're going to go over our progress, the process that we went through, planning, vision and goals for the plan, recommendations, the physical master plan, which each of y'all have a copy at your table for discussion. We'll talk about the projects that have come out of this process. In each packet that you got as you walked in, there is a list of projects, land use, transportation, specific different categories. And then we're going to do an activity to get some feedback on the physical master plan and our proposal. We started this process in April with the research and analysis phase. We went through visioning over the summer, draft recommendations from late summer until the fall. And right now we're at the final concept. We had our last meeting with the steering committee a few weeks ago, and now we're having our final meeting with the general public. Plan highlights. So with this plan, we're trying to establish a vision for Douglasville for the next 10 years. We're outlining a strategy for implementation of public improvements worth around $40 million. We're proposing 800,000 square feet of new development and redevelopment in the downtown study area. We are proposing the redevelopment of the former county jail site as a mixed-use anchor featuring a town green. We are proposing a bicycle loop throughout the city and some zoning changes to help craft this plan. Throughout the process, we had many engagement activities. Initially, we went to the Ultimate Downtown Block Party back in April. We did an intercept, we had a tent, we talked to people that came by with their families, different business owners and members of the community. We also had an online survey. We had a visioning workshop in June. We had meetings with stakeholders about the former county jail site, and we also had meetings with the master plan committee. First, we'll go over our online survey results from the spring and early summer. So these were the biggest words are what most people responded with, what they feel like Douglasville is today. There are some, there are some encouraging things in here as well, like quaint, historic, pleasant. There's a lot of opportunity. And so Douglasville tomorrow, people would like for it to be vibrant, thriving, amazing, lively, great. People have a lot of faith in Douglasville and have a lot of excitement for its future. What's going on downtown? What brings you to Douglasville? Most people said they come to restaurants. They go to Gumbo's, they go to Irish Bread, they come down here to eat with their family, meet their friends for a beer. What are your major issues you experienced in downtown Douglasville? Number one was few retail options for leisure shopping. We heard a lot of having more boutique stores and small business owners in the downtown. Development, what could make the Douglasville, why would you come here more often? Number one response was more festivals and events. Again, mom and pop retail, nighttime entertainment were popular answers. What kinds of development should be prioritized? Number one was more restaurants. Number two was more retail. Number three was more bar and breweries. Transportation, what is the biggest transportation issue in the area? The top responses were traffic congestion, parking, lack of public transportation, the railroad tracks serving as a barrier between two sides of the city, and walkability, and maybe lack of continuous sidewalks. What transportation improvements would make it easier to walk or bike in downtown Douglasville? Sidewalk improvements, more sidewalks, improved connectivity, and this sort of crafted our idea about the bicycle loop that we'll talk about later to improve mobility throughout the city. In terms of housing, this one actually got the highest vote. So this is a mixed-use building in Brookhaven with ground floor retail and condos above for your downtown. Commercial, this is a complete street that has parking, retail, parks and open space. This was the top choice, which is sort of a small parklet, almost courtyard, nestled between two downtown buildings. This was the top pick for sidewalks, showing landscape improvements, a wide sidewalk, buildings that meet the sidewalk to get that sort of continuous downtown feel. Bicycle facilities, this is a buffered bike lane, so that way pedestrians are separated from cyclists, and cyclists are separated from cars with a landscape median. This is the vision statement that came out of the process. Downtown Douglasville should become a place where residents and visitors want to be and should be comparable to other historic suburban downtowns in the Atlanta region. We came up with different goals for different categories. For land use and development, it's to promote a mix of uses, to create a live, work, and play environment in the downtown. Create a town green, a signature green space for different types of events, farmers markets, concerts, 4th of July. Develop new housing that is appropriate for a range of ages, whether it's multifamily, townhome, or smaller single family. Beautify downtown Douglasville with new landscaping. Also, we went through and looked at your zoning and basically made some recommendations to some parcels along Highway 92 to encourage redevelopment, to look at your CBD zoning districts to allow for greater residential density, and also to allow different types of housing products that are maybe smaller single-family homes or townhomes in your downtown to kind of have a diversity of housing types. A large portion of this project was focused on the jail site. Obviously, we recommend that you begin demolition of the former county jail site and prepare the parcels for sale, purchase and assemble those parcels. Increase the minimum landscaping requirements for street trees and shrubbery within the downtown. We heard a lot of things about the crepe myrtles. On sidewalks in area than 10 feet, install planters. Also identify locations for pocket parks, and also to construct a dog park at the existing Wortham Park. Transportation, build on downtown Douglasville's walkability by improving the streetscapes in the downtown area. Work with GDOT to improve the plans for Broad Street. Create a network of connected bicycle facilities throughout the city to create an amenity and an attraction in the downtown. Redesign Church, Club, and Campbellton Street, basically doing landscape projects in all of them to provide bike facilities and adequate sidewalks and landscaping, fill in gaps along the sidewalk system. Economic development. Obviously, redevelop the former county jail into a recognized downtown anchor with a mix of residential, commercial, and civic uses. Consider tax allocation districts for the downtown area to attract developers and provide financial incentives to support redevelopment. Recruit more restaurants and retail stores to anchor downtown. Promote Church Street as downtown Douglasville's main street. Create a TAD, recruit a catalytic business to jumpstart businesses throughout the downtown. Promote the renovation of the existing historic building stock you have here. Redevelop the current city hall and into sort of a market or retail building, as it's a sort of key component to that Church Street corridor. Arts and culture, create an outdoor amphitheater for concerts and entertainment, which could be incorporated into the jail site town green idea. Enhance and promote more events and festivals to bring activity into the downtown, and develop strategies to integrate more public art throughout the downtown. Conduct a study to determine space needs for a potential new cultural arts center. Install playable art and new green spaces in parks, which are not only pieces of art, but promote all ages. Kids can play on them, families. Create a program that would feature outdoor public art installations throughout the downtown. And I'll turn it over to Adam, and he's going to talk about the physical master plan, and you'll have a copy in front of you.
Thank you. I'm Adam Williamson with TSW. We're excited to be here and introduce this plan. When you start working on master plans, we work on strategies with historic downtowns all out through the southeast. And what we found is it's hard to beat Walmart and Amazon. And so we need to start thinking about strategies, probably non-retail oriented, more about the experiences, more about restaurants and entertainment. And that's a big thing throughout these towns. And so this is the overall master plan. And if you look to the bottom here, there's a legend, and the colors mean different things such as multifamily, quadplexes, townhomes, hotel. And we're going to zoom in on these and talk about these areas. This is the former jail site. The county owns this site, so we've really been working with the city and county to form some type of partnership of what could happen with this site. Obviously, there's a better use than it is currently as a jail. And so one of the pieces, this is one of the concepts here. We heard the single-family homes, smaller single-family homes. This has potential for that in this area here. We also looked at what could this site be, and we looked at a lot of different iterations for the site, but here is a park. We kept the bridge, if you remember that bridge that comes across in the jail, and there's actually a podium here. The rest of the jail would be demoed. Also, you have a potential cultural arts center or other type of government offices, retail, a mixed-use building with retail on the bottom, potentially office above, and then a residential multi-family building in the back. And then here we actually have a new city hall proposed. We'll look at that in depth. But this is an image of if you kept that bridge, you probably, and you can put Douglasville on it or some type of gateway. You can kind of see, if you could climb up here and look out, right there you can see the downtown sky there. So that's kind of interesting. But that's a real Google image. We didn't Photoshop that. But the thought on the amphitheater was it could be a flexible space where you could have a flexible lawn. Here's another image of it looking back. But you could, so on those Saturday afternoons, you could go out and throw the frisbee or the football or have a picnic. You can have this is a playable art area where you have kids. We really wanted to make this space more multi-generational, and then have all the retail on the bottom where you have restaurants, so you could go eat and then come out and play. And that's really one of the first things, short-term recommendations, is to get that going, because we really see that as a catalytic project. Another important part of this project was we really started looking at the existing city hall, And that's really the bullseye of your downtown. It's the heart of your downtown with the new plaza. And that really should be more retail. And so the thought was to make this retail and then move the city hall down here, potentially a hotel. They have studies on it. There's some difficulties with that, but we wanted to create a spot for it. And the reason it was here is because it's close to the conference center, and they could walk over, and that's important. And so here's a view of what it would look like. Obviously, the conference center here. If this was sold to a private developer and let them develop, this is supposed to be like a market. If you've been to Croc Street Market in Atlanta, where you go in, there's multiple restaurants. So that's the idea for this building. There's also streetscapes we'll talk more about, but here's a cycle track, and you can kind of see that that's kind of the big thing, this bicycle loop we talk about, but it's a higher grade bicycle facility opposed to just the bicycle lanes. You know, people don't like that unless you're a professional biker. And these right here are more inviting for all ages, for kids and all levels of bicyclists. This is farther down. This is, we looked at this plan as a 10-year plan, so that's important to remember. And this is, we kind of look at this area as the longer-term vision. So if you get all the other stuff we just talked about done, then this could happen next. This is a big catalytic project, a multifamily project with a retail on the bottom. The red is commercial. So we really see this as a commercial street, a retail street with restaurants on it, and with that bike facility. And then it transitions over to multifamily, quadplexes, and more commercial. And then maybe even more future mixed-use development. Again, this is the longer-term vision. But this is that multifamily building if you're looking down toward Old Highway 92 with a retail, restaurant, and that mixed-use building with wide sidewalks and the cycle track. Across Highway 92, Old Highway 92, we also looked at how you can make that connection and bring the multi-use trail to the new Highway 92, potentially with townhouses, updating the park with a new structure, with a dog park, and then a mixed-use building on the corner here that could look across into downtown. So this is a list of projects. I'm not going to go through all these. We did give each person an agenda in the back of that. There's a list of projects, and they all have the prices, the short, midterm, long-term, how they would be paid for. I mentioned that bicycle loop. The idea was that it would come down Church Street and then loop down by the park and take you down to the high school and then back up and then maybe cross over to Highway 92 to create a loop. One of the things we've seen is bicycle sharing, where the city may buy some, usually they paint them like a really bad color where nobody really want to steal them. And so they put them out there in like bright yellow, and people just can use them whenever they like, and it would bring people downtown, they could loop. And also, this loop takes you places. It could take you to the park, it could take you to the downtown, it could take you to school. So it's important to have those spots that people want to go to. So this is Church Street, how it looks today. And so what we've proposed is adding on-street parking and then adding the cycle track and trying to keep the sidewalks as wide as possible with street trees. This is Club Drive, how it looks today. So we proposed a multi-use trail on the left here and adding street trees. And then Campbellton Street, we tried to stay within the curb on this one to keep the cost down, meaning we're not changing curb and drainage. And so we did do those bike lanes I talked about earlier, just to have that connection. But it is a cheaper way, and if you can get that loop, it's important. We could do an improved system, but it would be more costly. So these are some of the projects we talked about. Architectural space study to determine programming and size of future fine arts, create an arts master plan. Some of the economic development would be buy and assemble contiguous parcels to be resold to developers. So the idea is the city would go in and buy some land, hold it, and then try to get these parcels, enough of those parcels, and resell it to a developer for them to do development. And we've seen that work in other areas of Metro. sell the former conference center in the current city hall to a private developer for that retail, create a TAD, and Gary will talk more about the potential for that, and build a hotel to be owned and operated by the city's Convention and Visitors Bureau, business recruitment to focus on business types that have demand, and recruit unique and regional restaurants, and create a grant program to help revitalize and update existing historic buildings. So we have a long list of projects, so we didn't want to overwhelm the city and the city council. So what we create a priority project list of 3 major projects. So what we recommend is the first thing is really to tackle the jail site and build a town green and amphitheater, and it's located here. And then to start working on the Church Streetscape project, which is here. And then also the Club Drive Streetscape project to begin the start of that loop that would take you through downtown. So I want to turn it over to Gary to talk about some of the redevelopment tools.
Good evening, everyone. Our firm, Blakely Advisory Group, we participated in this process to basically do financial feasibility and market research to help guide the plan. Again, we looked at a 10-year horizon for feasibility. As you know, Douglas County was probably hit worse during the recession than a lot of other places. It's taken a long time to recover. As we look forward at this plan, all the trend lines seem to be going in the right direction. There's certainly an increasing market for both the county and Douglasville in particular. There's a growing demographic segment of the population that's looking to live in authentic historic places. And there's a finite supply of historic downtown areas in the region where that can happen. So those are all good things. We did a long market analysis. It contained about 50 pages. I'm not going to go through that, but now's a good time to be doing this. The other thing we discovered is that there's a lot of publicly owned land in your downtown between the city and the county. I believe it's over 20 acres, and it creates an opportunity to start assembling real estate. The challenge in developing in places like Douglasville is land development costs are much higher than greenfield sites. You have property assembly issues, you have higher costs, you have demolition costs, you have redevelopment costs. So to the extent that the public sector can work to reduce those costs and create something unique down here, that creates the catalyst for the private sector to take over. So we looked at various tools that can be used to help do this. I won't get into a lot of detail, but basically they involve what's called tax increment financing, where you can basically invest, the community can invest property tax revenues that typically go to general fund purposes to invest them in redevelopment. And in doing so, create more assessed value that creates more digest and more tax revenues overall. So we looked at these various opportunities. The one that seems to make the most sense for Douglasville is a tax allocation district. Again, it's one form of tax increment financing. The value of it is it enables you to raise revenue anywhere within the district where it's created. That revenue can be spent anywhere within the district. So it gives you more flexibility. There's a long process to establish a tax allocation district, which starts with a voter referendum authorizing the city to use redevelopment powers. The last time that was tried here was in 2009, and it got defeated pretty strongly. But at that time, I remember the region was just coming out of recession. There was no specific use of this tool, no specific location where it be tried. So hopefully, if a referendum were to be brought up again in the next year or two, maybe it would pass, and that would give you a tool to do a lot of the things that you want to do. Basically, the conditions to create one are here. The boundaries would probably be pretty similar to the study area for downtown. And again, I'm not going to go through the details, but I think it's a prime opportunity to do that here. And on the publicly owned sites, like the jail site, the city and the county have basically the ability to make a very similar financing arrangement to get development going on those sites, whether tax allocation district exists or not. Again, it's just another slide about how the approval process works. Basically, creating a district and enabling it to be used does not mean that money, the city council's authorized to will immediately spend money. There's just a long process for these things to happen, and it's good to have predefined projects like there are in this plan. There are other ways to fund redevelopment, such as community or business improvement districts. The nearest business improvement district to this location is probably Fulton Industrial Boulevard. There's another one near the airport. The challenge of doing something like that here is that your downtown does not have a lot of tax digest, so typically the millage rates for these things are pretty low. Typically it's only commercial properties that are assessed as part of these, and so they wouldn't generate a lot of money in this location. Special assessment district is another tool where there's a separate tax rate applied to a specific geography within the city. That tax rate does not apply anywhere else. You have to have the property owners willing to do that. The nearest example to that is the Six Flags area in Cobb County, where they have a special assessment district to do basically fund improvements around that. There's another one near the Braves Stadium in Cobb County. Again, for that to work here, you need the political will to do it, and you basically need several large projects to create the tax base to do that. Just, again, more information about special service districts. Again, it's an opportunity here. Of the three methods to finance improvements, again, we think the tax allocation district kind of makes the most sense and is the most suitable for this location. Again, the challenge here is your commercial tax base is pretty low here, in part because the density isn't here as much as you'd see in other downtowns, and also because there's just a lot of publicly owned land in downtown Douglasville. Again, if a voter referendum is passed, this is a tool you could use as early as 2019, assuming it were brought up to a vote maybe in the spring of 2018. So it'd give the city and the county the opportunity to plan, to start making development sites aware to the development community, and get projects constructed toward the early part of 2019.
All right, we'll open up to a Q&A, and I think a few people from the city would like to come up here as well and say a few words. Chris? And Marcia? Marcia? You're on the spot. Good evening. Hello.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Marcia Hampton. I'm the city manager for the City of Douglasville. My comments will be fairly brief. I guess, Chris, you're going to be speaking after I am. A few months ago when I was before you all, one of the things that I mentioned was that we wanted to make certain that we brought you a realistic plan, and we wanted to bring you a plan and work with the group that can provide you with the things that you've asked for. But I also provided a caveat that they cost. So really, at the end of the day, your city and your county government will need you to help us provide these things for you. And that will come in the form of tax allocation districts. It will come in the form of potentially increased tax digest. But the reality of it is those commercial properties that were just spoke about that are the value is low, the only way to get them increased is for us collectively as a community to make the decision to invest to bring them up. No one's going to come in and just invest on their own. So I challenge you today as you think about some of the things that were presented, which I think are very good ideas. And there are certain things that we at the city can do via SPLOS, but there's no way that we can do and get to that 10-year mark and commit to the things that are in the plan without your help. I will say that on the city's behalf, I've probably worn out every elected official. In a sense, some people in this community probably think that I'm in hibernation, but we probably have about 13 plans going on at one time. And they all talk to one another. And I believe that what your local government at the local city level is doing is laying the foundation for the things to improve the quality of life across the board here at the city. But we can't do that by themselves, and we can't allow these plans to sit on the shelves without your help and your willingness to invest. So when we come before you with tax allocation districts potentially doing projects, they're all based on things that you have said in this room and at other rooms. So while we're doing downtown revitalization, neighborhood revitalization on the north side, and industrial revitalization on the east side of town, again, we need your input and we need your willingness to be able to invest back in the community to bring these things to fruition. The communities that you have said that you want to emulate, they've done these things. They've done them. And they continue to do them, and they continue to invest. I was at a presentation about 15 years ago, and I remember this lady, she's the Economic Development Director for the city of Suwanee, and she's been there for a long time. And she told the story forever, and she probably continues to tell the story. We built downtown Suwanee because the citizens of the community came to us and decided to raise the taxes to do what they wanted to do. So you look at where they were 15 years ago and look at where they were today. The community wanted that. So you have a group of elected officials in this room. If these are the things that you want to do, I challenge you before you leave today, talk to them about getting these things done and what you're willing to do as a taxpayer to do them. If not, again, there'll just be a plan on the shelf that we can't implement, and we need your help to do that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Pumphrey, and I don't have a whole lot to add to what Marcia just said. She pretty much summed it up. So just for most of you all, you probably already know this, but as was mentioned a number of times, the old jail site really is the catalyst site for redevelopment for downtown. And when the county vacated that location to move into the new jail site, it immediately gave the charge to us to figure out what to do with it. And we entertained a number of different proposals that others had, but no one really had the funding to come along with it. And neither was, at that time, the county or city really in a position to fund any of their ideas. And so when it came to the time to do this master plan, we stepped up right away to say that we wanted to participate in this, to contribute to the funding of it, to ensure that we had a strategy for how to redevelop that site. And so, like I said, as Marcia said, please do talk to your council members. And as soon as that plan is adopted, we will immediately go into the marketing and recruitment efforts on that downtown on all supporting the whole downtown master plan, but specifically on that old jail site. So thank you, everyone, and like I said, Marcia pretty much summed the whole thing up for us. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know, since for those who have taken part in the master plan throughout the summer, what's next? What would you like the citizens to do? How will we stay engaged? So several questions.
Sure.
I would say what's next is to talk to your elected representative. There were a few funding options that were there. What's next here, I think TSW is going to go through an exercise about what you like, what you don't like. So the plan is not necessarily finalized. It won't be finalized until you put your final stamp on it. And I'm proud to say that we have so many people in the room. That means to say that we have people invested. That's a big deal. So I would say, one, starting with making your comments known today as a part of the plan, making those things known to your elected officials that if there's something on the plan that you want to see done, if it's the jail site, which I do support the recommendation of the consultant, as well as Chris standing here saying that that piece has to get done for everything else to get done. So if that's what the community is going to rally around, then I would like to see you all talk to your elected representatives and say, hey, this is what we want to support and this is what we stand behind. Yes, sir.
One thing I see as I look at the map is that the City of Douglasville has a fantastic opportunity to do some loop roads and even some one-way streets inside the city for downtown renovation. You know, we're bordered by Broad Street on the north, which is a state route. We're bordered by Fairburn Road on the east, which is a state route. Further out to the west is Highway 5, but the interior, if we were to, I don't know if anyone has looked at this or not, but it just jumped out at me. If you could turn Church Street into a one-way flow street going east to west possibly, and then come back west to east on Spring Street, and then go all the way around Club to Selman to Campbellton as a loop road, that might eliminate a lot of the traffic problems and open up those wider girths to make one-way streets, put in pedestrian walkways, treescaping, and things along that route. So, something to look at.
Yes, sir.
Everything that I see going on the map, and it looks blank, going down Broad Street. So I've heard all the conversation about what's going on with Church Street, what's going on with the jail, what's going on with the infrastructure along Church Street. Not hearing anything for Broad Street. Or I'll even say 3, because I've only been here 3.5 years. I'm the new boy on the block. What about our parking? What do you have planned for Broad Street? I never hear that mentioned in any of the meetings. So I don't know if you've been in communication with the railroad or the state of Georgia or who's ever responsible for that property. So what about that parking out there? What about if you create a one-way street that's rolling down Church Street as a one-way loop? Do we lose all of our parking out front? Is it gone, and now we have to knock all our walls out from the back of the buildings to allow some sort of entrance from the alleyways?
Well, we actually
Before I'm finished, has there been any consideration of that at all in these plans?
You ready? Okay.
Thanks, I just wanted you to
No problem. We have really looked at the GDOT plans, which concern the consultant team and I think the city. What happened is GDOT has their plans, and they showed the city what they call a concept report. And then during the process, GDOT has changed it, and they have eliminated the parking in front of Broad, which is a huge concern for us, huge concern for the retail. We didn't really propose much for Broad because, frankly, the existing businesses are strong there. They could be stronger in some places, but the streetscape and
stronger with parking or stronger with none?
Stronger businesses, but I think definitely with parking. If you start looking at studies for one-way streets, they tend to kill downtowns. They tend to move cars through very fast and very efficiently, but they don't allow two-way traffic and slow it down when people are making decisions to go to retail places. It would improve and give you more options from a width standpoint. That what the gentleman was saying giving you more width and more room for pedestrians. It would do that, but it has been found out that it is not good for businesses. And so the city is working with GDOT to hopefully save the parking and improve the streetscapes. You know, it is controlled by GDOT, but they do listen to the city, and hopefully we'll be able to save that parking and make improvements.
So as it stands right now, you've already had meetings with them?
We actually sent a letter to GDOT, the city sent a letter to GDOT and to set up some dialogue with them and have meetings with them.
So Broad Street could become just a one-way with no parking?
No, it's going to be a two-way. It's GDOT, so they're not going to one-way it.
Joyce Brand. Years ago, there were diagonal parking on the side of Broad Street where the railroad is. Is there any possibility that with cooperation with the railroad, there's going to be the diagonal parking instead of the parallel parking, to add more parking for downtown businesses?
I think the city is working, talking to them. I think the more parking, the better. I would agree with you, but it's just a matter of working with the railroad, which they don't really work with you. And so then you have to work with GDOT, who may work with you a little bit. So we're going to move into an exercise. It's not a very complicated exercise, but we have maps on the table, and we're going to give you green and red dots. And if you would, just place a green dot on the things you like and red dots on the things you don't. You don't have to use red dots if you can't find anything, but please, if you do, use the red dots. And then pick a spokesman. I'm going to turn it over to our first group to go through the process of giving us strengths and weaknesses, what they like, what they love, what they hate.
We just want to talk about one overarching idea that we kind of saw as a potential. I mean, there's a lot of strengths to it, and there's a few weaknesses like any plan you're going to give, but what was seemed to be focused on most was the concept of the amphitheater and the commercial development over on the old jail site. And something that kind of came to me in the last few days, I was talking with the film liaison as well, is that right now the old jail is actually a very successful site as far as movie filming and TV shows are going. So it's actually a generator right now. I mean, I know it doesn't make a lot of money specifically from the rents, but the offshoot, the ancillary income that comes from the crews that are coming in and the purchases that they make locally are actually adding a lot of money to the community. So the concept was not to get rid of what they've already presented, but actually leave the jail there as a movie studio. Instead of spending $1.5 million to tear it down, spend half or less of that money to actually improve the outside of the building so it's attractive and make it specifically a movie studio and market Douglasville as a studio town. Take the amphitheater and flip it to the other side, just the way they've got it designed, but use the other end of Church Street. Keep in mind, when you've got the Highway 92 bypasses can do wonders for towns or they can kill towns. And a lot of that has to do with what happens at the intersection, at the nodes where the splits occur. We're not really, it's outside the zone, but where 92 splits off right by the CVS drugstore is an important thing. That has to be landscaped and designed well. That's outside the scope here. But the second node is right where Fairburn turns onto Church. That's our new gateway. That's going to be the gateway into downtown Douglasville. And that is critical that that be very well designed. That was a beautiful drawing they had up there. But the concept would be take the idea of what they want to do down here and put it on this end, make that public space the gateway into downtown. The rest of the stuff, I think there's some very strong ideas here. I'm more than happy to back a lot of what's going on there, but that was our big idea that we want to contribute. Any questions?
I would say that we wouldn't want to change the jail too much because that's why they're coming.
Exactly. My idea was just to improve the outside so it's more aesthetically appealing on, for passersby and for,
Do we know how much it really does generate for the area?
I think you had a number there. You said it was.
The county could speak to it, or city.
Madam Chair, do you know? Because I don't know. It was estimated about $100,000 a year.
That's the rent for the space.
$100,000 a year.
That's the yeah.
That's a good year.
Do we have a number? Do we have a number on what that generates economically for the county? Because that's not obviously money spent on the facility, but crews come in and they buy lunch, they buy equipment, they buy.
They do food trucks. They do buy food. They don't stay here and they don't buy food.
Then we have to find a way to encourage that.
But they are not spending a penny.
Well, then we need to find a way to make that change.
The food trucks line that place up.
Can we get them to purchase the land from us?
We have a
tax the heck out of them?
That was a good year, $100,000. They have achieved that, but that is not the average. So the other comment that the county administrator is not here, but that he did want to mention is that there's still operating costs that go into currently the jail, which include utilities and things to keep it running that are coming out of those funds.
People managing it, you know, county has to manage it still. I mean, the people I talk to there, their manager, and be like, we don't want to do this anymore. It's not proper.
Well, that Greg's idea about possibly selling is actually not a bad idea, too, to see if we can privatize that studio, or make it into a private entity.
And I need to speak to it a little bit. We have been approached by those in the private sector about keeping it as a jail, as a jail for the purposes of filming. But their recommendations for that did not entail them buying the entire thing. So, once again, it was.
Yeah, the movie people we talked to definitely want it to be there, and they definitely just want to pay a little bit. Hey, let's go on there. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to, on that, just from my personal perspective, I understand the numbers may make sense, but for me, as a citizen who lives within walking distance of downtown, I'd rather have that space for something I can use as someone who lives here, works here, shops here, and not keep it for outsiders to come and do their own food and then leave at the end of the day, and then we have nothing here all night.
That's a nice segue into your group.
There you go.
Thank you.
We'll try to be much quicker. I'm a quick talker. So, come on now. Come on now. Actually, and I believe we were in agreement that, I know from my point of view, I was kind of neutral on this end, so I actually agree with Councilmember-elect Terry Miller on, because I know staff-wise at the city, we have talked about the new, that little small section of Fairburn Road will become a city street. 3 or 4 years from now, it'll be ours, and so that is more of a gateway. So it's not in this part of the area, but that's an area to be not forgotten. And so we didn't really, I was kind of neutral. We all at our table were kind of neutral on this end. We like the dog part. Personally, I feel like folks are responsible for their own dogs, but I joined the team and said we love it. And so everything about this with the jail property, I would not necessarily be a proponent of keeping that jail property, but I do understand that it has some usefulness as for right now. But everything about this is to be loved. We did have concerns about the parking down on this end, because if we're going to have any significant things going on here, parking, of course, you know, in America, we're the only place that wants to park within 50 feet of the walking track we're going to walk on. And yeah, they want to, yeah, we want to park right on the walking track that we go to walk on. So for whatever reason, two blocks from up here is just out of the question. But parking does appear to be somewhat limited down here to have any significant events. We do like this area, as a couple of people in the room know and probably ready to kill me over. The old Alpha Theater is a part of the current City Hall. As a part of any of this, it would be great to have an indoor theater back in the downtown area. You'll need 2 bullets now. And, but anyway, it could be easily reconverted back to that, and it really would not affect this private aspect going on there. So those are some things. And we love the idea of moving City Hall, but then that can't happen if that doesn't happen.
Great, thank you. I love the theater idea. You're next, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all don't fight over it.
Yeah. No.
Sorry, I thought we were next.
Go ahead, you stand up for mine.
All right. So let me get my bearings here. Okay, so we love this. That, I think, is absolutely going to change the entire feel of Douglasville. I think it's going to make an entire difference in Douglasville. I love your idea of the theater thing. That's really cool downtown. We were talking about the only thing at all that we saw with even partial red from our table is this, what did we say E was? Is that City Hall? And there was concern about why not consider putting it over here with other in this area along with this, but there's just a thought, just trying to keep it together. Otherwise, they had talked about the future hotel at either one of these locations were good, but everything we see is fantastic. We love it. We love the bike route. We love the green space. This is when we talked about the different options they had for that area, that was definitely the one that everybody loved the most with the amphitheater here and the retail and the mixed use. So we love it. I think it's fantastic. Love it. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, does the Armory have to stay there?
Long term, I'd love it for it to go away, but right now it's kind of a new facility. But maybe in time it could go away. It's a state facility.
What about, well, that's not the room that I never mind.
They just put some money into it recently. You guys ready? Sorry about that. You're up for real now. You're for.
Just fun.
So we really didn't mark up much of the plan, but we really did like a lot of the different things that they had to, or that they proposed. Some of the things that I had some concerns with is the probability of us actually all coming together and doing this. It's one thing to propose a plan. I'm sorry, it's one thing to propose a plan, but it's another thing to actually come together as a group and actually say, yes, we want to do this. And we really need the buy-in from majority of the people in Douglasville before we could get to this point. I think this is a true game changer. Another thing that I kind of don't want to see happen, if at all possible, is that we lose that old town, downtown Douglasville feel, right? I think we can have newer shops come in, but also still have that flair for just that historic feel, as well as some great walking space and not lose that. So that's pretty much it.
I agree. That's the one reason we didn't put a sticker on Broad Street, because that is beautiful. I mean, they could use some work on some of those buildings, but they're beautiful old buildings. I think you guys are next.
Go ahead and I'll pick up where you start.
Okay. Well, we liked everything. The end. Basically, we did. The only red dot we have is the bike trail. There was some concern about the fire department. You know, they have some concerns maybe about accessibility. Put 2 green spots here, because we really want to see some cottage-style homes, detached homes, not the multifamily homes. We know there's a lot of that. That would be a great idea for the people who want more privacy, and would love to see some of that. Go ahead, take it away.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for listening to us from the beginning. For those who have been here from the beginning, I would say overall the likability is strong. Understanding the demographics that we currently have and those that we're trying to attract. Having retail with mixed use is a plus. Again, for those who've been here from the beginning, we're trying to attract new people into the community that will help bring in the businesses. For instance, I wanted to show this particular area where we have some of the mixed use area. Think about your tech companies where your millennials can actually work, live, and play. So just to add to this, I would like to propose that, and a gentleman just said, he mentioned it a little bit earlier, about staying connected. If there's some kind of way, even if we meet quarterly, just so that once we speak with our officials, we can truly be advocates if we are still plugged in and don't lose the momentum of our time that we've been here. So now we feel invested for those who've been here for a long time. So we want to see the plan come to reality. So we would just like to ask to make sure that we stay connected and also have, accountability on both sides. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Dodd also wanted to make sure that you know that as this costs money, this is going to be revenue generating also with the homes, with the loft style living, with the retail and everything. So we got to spend some money to make some money.
Can you guys, are you guys ready? Can y'all come up? He was still over by the microphone. She's so shy.
This is for you.
Basically, the group in the corner, our main concern was parking. Now, we understand that it was not outlined. There are a few places, and even though America does like to park on top of the running track, that's what they want. And if that's their excuse for not coming, we don't, that's not our choice to decide whether that's a good excuse or not, if that's strong enough for them not to come. So that is why we're very concerned, particularly about the parking around the old jail. With all the amphitheater, if you have your cultural arts, if this is family living, they're going to take these parking places. Now, we didn't know if somewhere this was some underground parking or these buildings were going to have 3 tiers of parking and live above. But all our concerns about the whole thing, not the ideas and so forth, it was all about where are people going to park, particularly when you get major events. And yes, this may be 2 blocks away, but in Douglasville, 2 blocks is 2 blocks, particularly people who are driving from Fairplay. They've come all this way and now got to do more. I'm just saying that based on past experience, parking you can never have too much of. So that was our concern, is the parking. Where are we going to put these people when they do come into town?
But we like the idea.
Yeah, the idea, yeah. Great idea, just thank you, Vanny.
Y'all are funny.
I'll just address the parking issue. We did a study on the parking, and there is plenty of parking. It's just not right in front of the door in downtown, you're right. But there is some excess parking at the county facility right there. There is some, maybe it's not enough for the huge gatherings if people come. But we did a lot of work in Woodstock and they have a parking problem. It ain't so bad because it means it's successful.
We got some programs as well.
Right.
The middle group in the back.
Hello. For those who don't know, we're a husband and wife team. No. For the most part, we loved everything that was stated here tonight. I am a little concerned about not giving enough attention to Broad Street and to even Spring Street, because we do have businesses along that Spring Street corridor. So I think we should give them a little something as well. And also on Broad Street, I know the back table mentioned parking. It is a true issue, and I know he mentioned up far left we will have additional parking. But when I'm visiting Gumbos or somewhere like that, it is completely dangerous to back out. I mean, you can't even see. I mean, so if you don't have an up-to-date car and you don't have the camera detection in your car, you can literally hit someone or they will hit you. So I do want us to consider parking along that Broad Street area and also find a way to give businesses or vacant businesses, buildings an opportunity to grow and to thrive and also to bring forth new opportunities. So I don't know if we need to put like a business incubator downtown or somewhere, just to help keep our businesses strong in the county. You want to add anything else?
You sounded good.
Okay, and although I don't ride bicycles, but after seeing these paths coming through, I think I will purchase a bike. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So that's all we have.
And then, of course, we really do like the fact of how we're doing with the jail. But when it comes to that whole entire area for kind of like going with Spring Street, kind of like make this whole area where the fire station is, where the fire department is, if there's a way that we actually can push over some of that whole entire area to make that new and maybe have the fire department have another location, if that is something that's possible. So that'll be it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. The last group.
I think a lot of the strengths everybody agreed on, this amphitheater and the anchor that kind of provides to downtown as well as the gateway, but I do like the sentiment of having another point to that, so that when you do pass through, you see an exit, you see an entrance to both, and that gives you a zone that you start to enter. So those are one of the strengths, because one thing that we were talking about is, okay, how do you get all of this to happen at once? And this to me is like a catalyst for all of that to happen, be it private developers. When they see this happening, they see programs happening, they see growth happening, then they're enticed to purchase more things and see that growth. So I think that that's an important catalyst to start, be it here, be it there, but somewhere in this space. The other thing is the loop road we really liked. And to me, the highlight of that is if you have this and encourage use by residents, local residents, walking, biking, you're going to reduce the heaviness for parking that's up here. So that's going to help with your parking as well. So I think that's a huge thing. And if you're just outside this, you're going to want to ride your bike and get over there and not park and drive a half a mile or longer. So that's a huge thing. We also like the aspect of trying to bridge across the tracks. This seems to sever downtown in a way. So some kind of encouragement to go across, be it successful or unsuccessful, but at least trying that out. One thing, weaknesses, our old library over here is kind of far away. It'd be nice if that was in this area. It's an older one. It might need to be updated anyway, and so that seemed to be a good thing. The other negative thing that, and I know it's a pain, but the Georgia DOT and the Broad Street parking, I think that you can't really solve anything. You're kind of landlocked, but at least having a small strategy to say, hey, we got an answer for you 40 people that want to park right here, and here's the options for that, I think would be good for everybody. And the other thing that we were looking at is, yes, this is a 10-year, right, down the road, but is this encouraging more linear growth along the tracks, or is this kind of doing both this way as well as loop down that way? Just thinking long term and what this is going to kind of be a catalyst for in 20, 30 years for downtown. So that's it.
Well, thank you.
All right, we'll take all of your comments tonight and we'll integrate them into the final plan. And we'll actually have this presentation available online. And if we don't have your email address already, please sign in up front so we can collect those and we can add you to our mail list and update you on when the presentation is online, as well as when the final plan is for review and viewing online, which will be posted on the city's website. And I would hope by the end of the year, I would imagine. Right? Yes. And we'll keep you updated on that. Thank you so much for coming out and being part of the process. We had a lot of fun and we really appreciate it.
All right, now we're at the end, but I wanted to speak to you about a couple of ways that you all can stay involved. And I know Tracy wants us to stay together because we grew so close this past summer. But we do have the Main Street program that we are always looking for volunteers. We have 4 different committees that we mentioned that early on. So if you're interested in working in the downtown, be it promotions, marketing, there are 2 others, but we have a number of committees that April manages. And so please speak with April. They meet monthly, and she will send you an email and invite you and make sure you're up to date with what's going on with that. Also, we do have KDB. I'm sure Chan has a number of events that's going on that you can also participate in as well. So we're all looking for volunteers to help move Douglasville forward. So please give one of us a call or just call the main line and ask to speak to one of us, and we will certainly include you in projects as we move forward. Also, we do have the Buy Local campaign that's starting November 25th, which is Small Business Saturday. We're encouraging everyone to participate in that. We've done Downtown Love for the month of February, and we also did Restaurant Week. And so this program, we're partnering with the Chamber, Douglas County Chamber, along with Downtown Villa Rica, their Main Street program, and so we're giving away, and the Douglas County Development Authority. We're going to give away a total of $1,500. $1,000 go to the receipt that's drawn, and then $500 goes to the actual business where the food, whatever, was purchased. So we ask that you participate in that. Drop your receipts off at the chamber, the courthouse, City Hall, and that's it, I think. We have 3 locations. And that is pretty much it. We have your puzzle pieces. If you would write your name on the puzzle piece, we're going to put together this puzzle at some point, and we're going to frame it. And we're going to have that as a reminder of the dedication and the hard work that we've all put in over the course of the past 6 months. And you will hear from us again. If we have your contact information, we will definitely bring the group back together to discuss implementation. It will go before mayor and council for adoption, so they do have to approve it first before we move forward with anything, but we'll definitely touch bases with you and let you know where we are in the whole process. So if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call, but this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.